Hi, I'm David Fleming from the Disciples Ignited YouTube channel, where we are focused on Jesus, advancing his kingdom and preparing his disciples. Now we're studying the book of Romans, and today we're going to start in the third chapter, where Paul starts this third chapter by asking a very important question. Let me read it to you. Romans chapter 3, verse 1, and I read, "What advantage then is there in being a Jew?" Well, in order to answer this question, let me ask you a question. Do you know why God made the Jews to begin with? Well, to answer that question, let me take you back to the creation, when God created mankind in the very beginning. We know that God created mankind to be in a relationship with himself, and so that mankind would be his representatives upon the earth and to rule the earth. Well, we know that Adam and Eve failed miserably. Sin was brought into the world. All mankind thereafter was in rebellion. And after many generations, the Lord had it with the rebellion of man. And so that brought God to the point to where he was just going to have a great restart. We read about it in Genesis chapter 6, verses 5 through 7. Let me read it to you. "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart were only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them." So we see that God made Adam and Eve to be in a relationship with him, but thereafter they were in, all mankind was just in rebellion. So God had a great restart at the flood. And so you would think that mankind would take advantage of this great restart and start living for the Lord. But sadly, that was not the case. We see in Genesis chapter 11, verses 4 and verses 9, that man continued in his rebellion, and the Lord finally decided that he was going to deal with this problem in a different way. Now we know the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it, according to Psalm 24:1. So all people answered to the Lord. But still mankind as a whole were in rebellion against God. And so God decided that he was going to make a nation just for himself. And through that nation, he was going to begin to draw all the other nations unto himself. And that meant that he was going to have to choose a man that he was going to build a whole nation out of. And that was how God came up with the plan to make the Jewish people into a nation that would be the Lord's own people, that he would draw all nations into himself through. We'll talk more about this, but that is the beginning of the answer that Paul asked this question. What advantage then is there in being a Jew? God has raised up the Jewish people to be a nation that he was going to use to draw all nations unto himself. Let's read more about how this turned out. I'll see you tomorrow.